45 minutes. But, hey, guess what? It's not about, what does Ricky say? Don't count your reps, make your reps count. So, without further ado, guys, I mean, what a sluggish start in this one.
Yeah, Gino, we're hoping to make our reps count, and hopefully we won't be burning off as many seconds on our play clock as the Syracuse offense did today. An absolute embarrassment. 45-26, Tennessee tops Syracuse, and really right from the jump, AJ, this was a sluggish start for Syracuse.
Yeah, Syracuse, Fran Brown was talking about the week leading up to this game being ready to play. And that team, I think they were ready to play, but they were almost too ready in a way, a little bit too amped up. Those penalties in the first quarter were just killers. Too many in the first quarter. It flipped in the second quarter. That's what gave Syracuse some hope there. But ultimately, I think the Orange lost this game in that first quarter.
They definitely did, giving up 17 points. Luke Burgess, our reporter today, was down in Atlanta. You'll hear from him later in this show. We've got plenty packed into this 45-minute double overtime, which starts right now.
The game may be over, but our coverage on WAER is not. Here on the double overtime, we'll be breaking down all the highs.
Ford claps, this time he gets it. Looks to the left corner of the end zone. 1v1 ball for Meeks. He went up there, and he got it. Touchdown, Syracuse.
Ford takes the snap, drops back, looking to the left, lofts it down the field, and gets it, catches it. Gain of 20, first down, Orange.
McCord in the gun, takes the snap, hands off Allen, and one-on-one with the UNLV defender. He breaks the tackle and finds the end zone. Absolute cinema in the Sin City.
And the lows.
Ford the snap, throws it near side, it's intercepted by Pittsburgh to the 10, and he's into the end zone. Touchdown, Panthers. Rasheem Biles with a pick six to the house. The snap, the hold, the kick is up, and it's good. And McKinney is the hero in Syracuse. The Cardinal walk off the Orange.
Delivering our hottest takes along the way.
When you have this many talented receivers, this deep of a group, someone has to be in single coverage.
Yep. It was Jackson Meeks.
They talked about it in Jackson Meeks in the second half, but in that sense, it was Trevor Pena. You leave Pena wide open, and you get him a great chance to make a great catch.
What did we just watch?
I don't know.
This is the third-ranked passing offense in the nation going into the game. I'm sorry, that team did not show up. They were left in the bye week. A lot of rust offensively to start this one off, and it never got better for the Orange.
Get your voice heard by calling in at 315-443-2011 or check out our YouTube at WAER Sports Talk. It's the double overtime, and it starts right now.
Man, AJ, I hear some of those names in that open. Jackson Meeks, Aronde Gadsden, LaQuinn Allen.
Some of those names
It
today.
makes you sigh. It makes you reminisce, if you will. Syracuse drops its season opener 45-26 to number 24 Tennessee. Alongside AJ Myers, I'm Jish Sokolsky. But it's not just us. We want to hear from you, Syracuse fans. Please call into the show and voice your frustration. 315-443-2011, the number to call. Again, that's 315-443-2011. But if you don't want to talk to us, you can still text us, 315-556-3929. And, of course, interact with us on social media, on X and on YouTube. WAER Sports Talk is the account to find. AJ, it almost seemed like this game was over before it began. There were probably some Syracuse fans that said, we're playing an SEC team out of the gate. Yeah. That can't be good. And there were probably other Syracuse fans that said, no, you're being too pessimistic. Well, I'm sure those pessimistic Syracuse fans were pretty vindicated right out of the start. 17-0, the score, almost in the blink of an eye. Really, to me, AJ, it was that blitzkrieg offense from Tennessee. Didn't take any breaks. Went with the no huddle from the first drive on, quick RPOs for Joey Aguilar. The SU defense just right out of the jump was gassed.
I mean, you look at that Demetrius Samuel. I mean, 17 years old. He had his welcome to college football. Type of first half. I think the second half he improved, but in that first half he was getting burnt on those deep balls, and he has that pass interference. That's what helped set up the 3 points for Tennessee. And those penalties in the first quarter really killed the Orange because every break you thought they would get, They committed a penalty and either gave Tennessee another chance on offense or gave them worse field position, which really hurt that offense. And it took a full quarter for Angeli really to get comfortable in that orange uniform. And I don't even know if he really got comfortable the entire game. I thought maybe the end, that last drive, was probably his best moment all game. But overall, I look at those penalties in the first quarter. You just can't start that sloppy against any team. Who cares if it's an SEC team? You can't start that poorly with those penalties in a first quarter and expect to win a game.
You know, Angeli really, you said it, AJ. He wasn't comfortable out of the gate, but a lot of that
is to do with he had no time.
You
no
can
time in
chalk
the
that
pocket.
up to Tennessee just running those SEC, NFL really style blitzes. They had 5 sacks on Angeli today, and a lot of them were due to some creative stunts up front, some delayed blitzes from the second level. Tons of pressure came through that way, and I do think that as the game went on, I think there's still a lot of questions with Angeli, but there were moments where just everything fell apart, and he still somehow made something out of nothing. In fact, the very first play of the game, busted block from Demetrius Witherspoon on the right side. Safety comes in his face.
Nothing you can do about that.
I was very pleased, though, with what I saw from Angeli when he dumped that ball off, picked up a gain of 15 from a loss. I mean, you can't really ask for anything better than that, but when you are consistently letting guys come into the backfield unblocked, when you're letting them take your lunch money, they're going to take your lunch money.
And, okay, here's the big thing. Let's go back to camp. What was the big thing that Angeli got the job for? He's a game manager. He's poised. He's been there. He has this. Everyone wants to talk about that drive in the playoffs. You know, look, he did this. He led the team down the field. Game manager's great. But in a game like this, you almost needed a gunslinger at times, a guy who would be more aggressive in getting out of the pocket and scrambling. I don't think, yes, he had no time in the pocket, but I am a little concerned of how uncomfortable he looked when pockets broke down. You saw he had the fumble there, poor ball protection. That really cost the Orange as well. That's my biggest worry with Angeli is when things got messy in the pocket, it looked like he had no idea what to do or no idea where to go with the ball. When he was given that time, I thought he looked really good, and he was able to find receivers that, you know, we were going back during this whole game. Me and Jess were going back on what we thought about receivers.
Come on now.
They had an up and down day. I thought they did better than I think you thought they did. But when he had time in the pocket, he was able to find his guys.
I think simultaneously two things can be true at the same time, right? Angeli maybe didn't have the best game when it comes to managing certain pressure, but there were moments where he did a great job. I think about that 4th and 1 too, when things kind of fell apart, he did a great job improvising, which is something that, you know, Kyle McCord also could do very well. But again, there were moments where he just had absolutely no help too, and he can't do it all by himself.
No, not at all.
Especially against this SEC team. And I mean, you say he's not really a gunslinger. I would say you're right, but I honestly think that's Angeli kind of knowing his physical limitations.
True.
When we were watching this game, how many times did Angeli kind of sail a ball deep down the field and still somehow picked up positive yards due to some pass interference?
Yeah, true. He didn't have an interception, and that was key. No picks today for him. So that
he did have the one
yes,
pick.
but I'm not. Yes, he did have that. That was, you know, that was, if you want. Yes, that was a pick, no doubt about it. But I was happy when he had time in the pocket and how he completed balls. My biggest concern is just, you know, when the pocket collapsed, he looked really nervous, and he looked like he didn't know what to go with it.
Well, we're not very nervous at all. We love talking about this game, even though it was a 19-point loss. So, too, does Tony in Cleveland. Tony, you want to talk about the game. Tell us what you got.
All right, guys. I know you said that a lot of people kind of wrote this off initially as a loss, big SEC Tennessee team. This felt going in all offseason like this was Syracuse's opportunity to demonstrate that they belong with the big boys. And if Syracuse would have been able to pull this off, I think you would have been able to have that serious conversation that Miami win last year wasn't just a one-off. And I think what's so frustrating is it felt at certain points like if they would have just mitigated some of those mistakes, especially early on, like what you said, they got punched in the mouth early and go down 17-0. That was a winnable game. Like they were within striking distance in the third quarter, and they just weren't able to get it done. I had no idea what was going on with the 2-point conversion plays. But my biggest issue is that something needs to get figured out about this defense. Syracuse placing a lot of darn good quarterbacks this year, and if a defense is going to be that Swiss cheese, they're not going to be able to win a lot of games.
Tony, I love all the insight. I love everything you're saying. The one thing I'm going to fight back on a little bit is I did look at this going into it as Tennessee SEC team. They're bigger, they're faster, they're stronger.
5 stars.
And I think they showed that, especially at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. And that's ultimately why Syracuse, I don't think really, what are you going to do to stop that run? There was nothing Fran Brown could have done to stop the run. And all those drives where Tennessee, it was 3.5-minute drives where the Orange just punched the ball down the field. I don't see anything Syracuse could have done about that.
Absolutely. Maybe if this game is in 3 years where you get that much more Fran Brown recruits and transfers into the system.
A lot of turnover
totally
from
agree.
last year.
But, the team went 9-3 last year.
Mm-hmm.
The team went to the Holiday Bowl. They beat Miami that last game. They were a couple of wins away from the ACC tournament, if the ACC championship, and potentially a college football playoff. They were right there.
Totally different team
And
this
if you-
year. You have to understand. Not much is back from that team.
And also, what was the biggest issue with the team last year, though? It was
Which is never going to be back anymore.
Right.
Yes.
Well, that you never know with how, I guess, volatile the ACC is. It's still on the table for Syracuse in future years, but the biggest issue last year was also the run defense. And then when you lose guys like Marlo Wax and Justin Barron and Fadil Diggs, do you really expect that anything's going to change against a offense in Tennessee that had Dylan Sampson last year that is consistently churning out NFL talent at running back? I think the writing was kind of on the wall, and I don't know if this really was a winnable game, Tony.
I don't know if it was, I totally agree. There's a long way to go, obviously, but I'm checking my phone every week, and I'm seeing a new 4 or 5-star, 3 or 4-star recruit that Fran Brown's pulling down. It's on him. It's on Elijah Robinson to bring in the dogs in the offseason that can allow you to beat teams like that. Fran Brown says he wants to win a championship here. You got to be able to beat teams like Tennessee, especially stopping the run like they weren't able to do today if you want to win the championship. Thanks, guys.
Yes,
Absolutely.
Thanks, Tony. Really appreciate the call.
And he brings up a great point. And I also want to talk about this defense because you're kind of alluding to it, AJ. It seemed like no matter what Syracuse did to try and stop the run, put 7 guys in the box, put 8 guys in the box.
There's nothing they could have done.
You can't do it if they are just bigger than you and stronger than you. It reminds me a lot of the Clemson game from 2 years ago when Syracuse went into the game 4-0, kind of, Clemson's having a down year. They still have 5 stars up and down the offensive line, up and down the defensive line. At some point, yes, you are doing a great job as Fran Brown, bringing in so much more talent, bringing in a lot more meats, but you just simply do not have, in today's college football landscape, the resources to go out and get the guys that can stop Tennessee, to get those SEC-level players. It just isn't going to happen for Syracuse yet. Fundraising, who knows how fundraising is going to go down in the next couple of years. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. We're still talking about a 19-point loss.
Well, and I also want to spin it this way, too.
Sure.
Look at Tennessee's quarterback. I don't think he was excellent, but it was just the run they couldn't stop. So maybe give the defense credit there, but that run up front, there was just no chance for the Orange today.
Okay, I think that the run did make Aguilar look a lot better than he actually is, though. We were kind of noticing. You might look at the box score and say, oh, wow, the Tennessee's got another good one. 16 for 28, 250 yards, 3 touchdowns.
I didn't think the receivers were great for the Vols either.
Well, they're very, very inexperienced. A lot of those guys were
just
playing
like Syracuse.
Well, a lot of these guys were playing their first ever college football. I mean, at least with Syracuse, you got your Darryl Gills, your John Tay Cooks of the Justice Ross Simmons, who, well, whatever. I'm not going to. We can talk about that a little bit later. I think that Justice Ross Simmons did a horrible job of tracking the ball rather than just trying to draw as much contact. He's a physical receiver, but he wasn't really tracking the ball that well. I'm going on a tangent here. Joey Aguilar, I think his weaknesses of kind of overshooting receivers were really masked by this RPO game that Tennessee was able to set up. They did a great job kind of cutting through as what Tony would call a Swiss cheese
I like
defense.
that from Tony.
That was great.
That was awesome.
I agree. It was a Swiss cheese defense, but then you have to, if you're Syracuse, put more and more people in the box and leave Demetrius Samuel and Chris Peel on islands one-on-one outside. That is Hitch City on the outside flats. You just need the receiver to run 5 steps up, sit down, get a pass from Aguilar. There were a couple times when he was throwing too high and too low, and Syracuse just couldn't really take advantage of that. Aguilar was consistently overshooting and undershooting receivers today. He didn't really look super comfortable himself, but when you can rely on a running game and a defense, you can put any quarterback back there, and they'll thrive.
Absolutely, and that's what it did. I mean, really, it comes down to the running game. Tennessee, they rushed for over 240 yards. Syracuse rushed for just over 100. And Yasin Willis, who we need to talk about, I think, he had 90 of those yards. He was by far Syracuse's best player on the day. He gives me like Marshawn Lynch, Derrick Henry vibes, just kind of a bulldozer. The first rush he got, he really tanked over someone and he got everyone hyped up. I love that. out of him. And, he's now really taking the void of LaQuint Allen. And I was really pleased with what we saw from him. And that's something I think all Syracuse fans can say, hey, if the quarterback situation's a little up in the air, we're not sure on Angeli. People probably want to see Ricky Collins. So do I. That's why you have these next 2 games, people. You'll definitely see Ricky Collins at some point. But at least you can say, oh yeah. I mean, when they're up against Colgate 45-0, there's no way Angeli's staying out there.
Well, do you think they throw Ricky Collins in, or do they try and throw maybe like a Jakari Williams, somebody
No,
who's
I don't think so.
I don't know if Ricky Collins comes in, because you would need him to be your. I think he's a very valuable backup quarterback.
All right. Anyway, back to my point. I'm praising Willis here, and I love what Willis did today, and I think that's something Syracuse really needs to lean on in the rest of the season to show, like, hey, we got a number 1 running back option.
AJ, call me crazy, but as a pure runner, I think pound for pound, Yasin Willis is better than LaQuint Allen. And if you disagree with me, come tell me about it. Call into our show, 315-443-2011. Text us, 315-556-3929. Yasin Willis,
I thought you were
going to
say you liked Will Nixon.
No. Oh, my goodness. No, I'm not.
He scared me for a
I
second.
love hot takes. I don't like wrong takes.
Yes.
Yasin Willis, 3 touchdowns, 91 yards on the ground. This is a guy who just fires you up as a runner. He's not afraid to put the shoulder down. He's a bowling ball at 240 pounds, and he was inviting contact. I'm glad you brought up that first run, AJ. It was only a 4-yard run.
He was ready to
put
go.
A guy in the dirt.
He was ready to go.
And fortunately, the Tennessee player who he did knock down was all right, but he goes in, he knocks someone out of the game. He's fired up. He's tapping his helmet. We're both Eagles fans. We've seen that from Saquon Barkley. I was fired up downstairs. I'm slapping the table. I love Yasin Willis.
3 touchdowns today. That's really impressive.
I love his contact balance. I love how he can push the pile in short downs and distances. You didn't really get that from LaQuint Allen. LaQuint Allen
totally
was more
different
of the
back.
swing pass dynamic
out
in
of the
that
backfield.
sense.
Yeah.
But as a pure runner, and you just need a couple of yards to, pick up a key third down.
Drain the clock a little.
Drain the clock, score a touchdown. LaQuint Allen showed signs of it last year, but give me Yasin Willis. Another year, some more bulk on him, some more experience in this offense.
Fran Brown
I
loves
loved
him, too. Fran Brown is a huge fan of him. He's praised him a lot. He praised him his freshman season as well before the year even started. So I think is there any other positives? Because that's the only positive for me. Everything else, defense, I'm really concerned about. Receivers. You want to get in that receiver conversation real quick before we hit the break?
Oh, yeah, I would. I know you were big into Jonte Cook, and I know a lot of people watching. He had a good game eventually, but it took him a long time to really get into action. I think back to the first time we heard his name.
6 catches, 60 yards, 1 TD.
Yeah, is that really an elite receiver? You had Jackson Meeks doing that in his sleep last year.
I like his speed. He definitely can be a speed threat, Jonte Cook.
Sure, he's going to play that Trevor Pena role, and if you really squint your eyes, you might see number 2 and think it is him, because he is that short, kind of shifty. You can move him as kind of a Swiss Army knife. They gave him an end around today too. I think he's going to have to fill that role. But he's no Trevor Pena. I think Trevor Pena was way more dynamic and way more crisp as a route runner. One thing that what really made me sour on Jonte Cook early in the game, he was running a slot fade. This was back in the first, second quarter. Syracuse had to score. Steve Angeli, he was kind of inconsistent with those deep balls today, but he threw a deep ball. He was expecting Cook to really run out that fade route. Cook kind of stopped. He was
pitched back in.
He pitched back in. He kind of met his defender head on, and you can't do that as a receiver. If you're running a fade, you just got to go forward, use your natural ability. You can't get knocked off your spot. He's not as physical, not as fast, not as agile as Trevor Pena. If this is the guy who's supposed to save your offense, I just don't know if he can be the one who does it. And in the second half, he was non-existent, only 2 catches.
True. Second half, he disappeared.
Under 20 yards.
Yeah, and it was interesting in the second half, Justice Ross Simmons, someone who I'm really high on. I'm a big Justice Ross Simmons fan from the glimpses he showed last year. But yeah, he was not all that impressive. He only had 3 catches, and I don't really remember any 3 of those catches.
He did have that one nice tunnel screen where he took it 20 yards, but
another I was going to go to the tight ends. Dan Villari, too. He had 5 catches, and again, I don't really remember any 5 of those
It's
catches.
the growing pains away from Arande Gadsden, you know? I mean, like, Villari's had experience as the tight end.
Villari made a lot of mistakes, too. I think he had a legal man down the field. That's what it was for Dan Villari.
That's
he had
confusing,
that,
though.
2 times.
Because he's a tight end. He shouldn't have to worry about that.
I know,
He's
that
a
was
tight
weird.
end.
That was weird.
It was just a matter of not lining up right.
Yeah.
Jonte Cook had a penalty where he didn't line up right. Dan Villari had 2 where he didn't
a lot
line
of these
up right.
penalties came from skill position
It's
players, which is kind of rare.
Yeah, you usually see the holding, the false starts.
Yes.
That's kind of been what Syracuse fans have kind of cringed
Come accustomed to,
winced at in years past. The offensive line, I'm not going to say they played well. I mean, I don't think they were kind of in rhythm yet. It's four
But
new guys.
Tennessee, I mean,
It is
again,
Tennessee.
bigger, faster, stronger.
Sure, I think there were plenty of plays where the offensive line just weren't playing in sync. You got 2 transfers, some depth pieces are now starting for them, but really the skill players, a little underwhelming to me, especially Justice Ross Simmons. I know you really liked him. I really do too, and I think he is a good receiver. There is a good receiver in there somewhere, some great tools.
And I think that we can say that come to the assumption on all the skill position players. Darryl Gill was really quiet in this game, but last year he was excellent. He was one of Syracuse's best receivers. So just the first game, you're going to hear this a lot from me for the rest of the show. Pump the brakes. It's just one game. Tennessee's very good. It is concerning that these skill position players weren't better. It is concerning for me that Angeli wasn't better than what, I thought I'd see more from him, but it is just game number 1, so I'm not gonna throw in the towel just yet.
I hope you don't, because we've got plenty more content here on the Double Overtime. Luke Burgess, our reporter, was down in Atlanta, got to watch this game with his own 2 eyes. He'll be joining the show after a quick, short break. You're listening to the Double Overtime on WAER.
On the campaign trail, President Trump promised to help U.S. workers. He says his policies are making an impact.
Every policy of the Trump administration is designed to lift up the American worker, promote great-paying blue-collar jobs.
But how much have his initiatives actually helped? This Labor Day, we examine Trump's labor policies on the next morning edition from NPR News.
Weekdays from 5 to 9 on 88.3 WAER.
On the next Putumayo World Music Hour,
we highlight one of the world's most expressive, affordable, and versatile instruments, the human voice. I'm Dan Storper.
And I'm Rosalie Howarth. Join us for World A Cappella, the next Putumayo World Music Hour.
Sunday night at 11 on WAER.
He gets the snap, looks to his right, fires to the end zone, caught at the goal line, a lunge forward, and a touchdown. Jonte Cook. His first touchdown in an orange uniform comes in his debut.
College football is back. Syracuse football is also back, and so too is the Double Overtime. AJ Myers joined alongside Jis Sokolsky. We're on the air until 5 o'clock. We want to get your thoughts on this one. Syracuse falls to Tennessee 45-26. You can call in 315-443-2011. You can also text us your thoughts. Me and Jis were really going back and forth on what we thought from the skill position players, also from the quarterback, and how poor we thought that Syracuse defense was today. So if you want to get involved on that conversation, you can text us 315-556-3929. And you can also now talk to our third member of the Double Overtime. That's Luke Burgess, who was in Atlanta. He was at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Luke, how was your game day?
It was long. It was very long. This
Yes.
game lasted 3 hours and 56 minutes, which it was a marathon.
It's like a baseball game.
We did not get. Oh, it's like a baseball game pre-pitch clock that went into extra innings.
Yeah.
It's not even, baseball games are like 2.5 hours these days.
Yeah.
So it was a long day. Especially we got here early as well, just wary of the traffic and the event that this is. So I've been here for a while, but. I mean, you really couldn't ask for a better stadium to be in. This place is incredible, and it's pretty cool. I mean, maybe it gets lost in the whole scheme of the game, but it's pretty cool.
Definitely.
That
They got another game tomorrow
here.
too, right?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
And they're already scrubbing the end zones and getting the new logos down and stuff. So yeah, Virginia Tech and South Carolina here tomorrow.
Yeah, that's nuts. I mean, but one thing that is, I think, kind of notable about Atlanta is it is much closer to Tennessee than it is to Central New York.
True.
So we were kind of noticing through, maybe the crowd mic on WAER and kind of looking at it in the stands. Like, do you really think this was a neutral site game? It seemed like there was a lot more burnt orange in the stands than there was Syracuse orange.
Yeah, hell no. This was not a home game or even a neutral site game for Syracuse. The crowd was probably 95% Tennessee. There were 2 sections that had Syracuse fans. One of them was directly below our booth, just along the 10-yard line on the Tennessee. It was near the Syracuse sideline, but near the Tennessee end zone. And then the other one was directly behind the Syracuse tunnel where they came out of. And those were probably the 2 lowest attended sections in the lower bowl. And those were the 2 sections where there were Syracuse fans. So, it's not an embarrassment or of any kind.
No.
First of all, you're going up against an SEC fan base. There just is more interest. That's the way it is. That's changing.
It just means
right
more.
now, it's the way it is. And the other thing is it's a 14-and-a-half-hour drive.
Yes.
People from Central New York, that's a lot of money and a lot of time and investment if you're going to pay for a flight to get down here. And you know what? Credit to the Orange fans who were here. There were Let's Go Orange chants. They were loud when they needed to be. But it's not going to do much when probably, I would say, 35,000 of the 46 in attendance today were rooting for the Vols.
Yeah, and now I want to get into what Fran Brown had to say. I'm looking at our WAR Sports Twitter. One of the tweets said, I want to talk about Demetrius Samuel Jr. It's what Fran Brown said. He said, I thought he had a good game. It was good to see him get in those situations. Luke, he got burnt early on. We were talking about that defense. Was there anything on the sideline you saw after that first drive? Fran maybe going over to Demetrius Samuel or going over to any other defensive players, telling him to calm down a little?
There was a bunch of coaches going over to the defense in the first quarter and probably just saying, this needs to get fixed. I think it's pretty much that simple. But Demetrius Samuel was pretty bad in the first quarter, to be honest with you. There's no sugarcoating it. I would say he was probably the worst defender on the field. But that was not continuous throughout the entirety of the game. He got a lot better and he settled in, but he was getting burned at pretty much every single route in the first quarter. And Tennessee exploited that when they could. I actually give credit to Syracuse's linebackers and safeties for picking him up a couple times when he got beat one-on-one. But I think, at the end of the day, I think about this as a 21-year-old man. He's 17 years old. And just,
which is crazy.
Despite his talent, it is really insane. And he turned 17, in April. He was 16. I'm thinking about my thought process when I was 16. I used to do choir and I sang the national anthem at a basketball game one time.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure there were less than 500 people in the building, and I almost choked on my own words in the first verse. So I can't imagine how it feels to be 17 years old playing in front of 45,000 people in an NFL stadium.
I want to get back to the phone lines. We got Norm from Rome on the line. Norm, what do you got for us?
Just a couple of things. I'll mention, then I'll listen to what your comments are about.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's about the coaching, I thought. I think they're in preseason form, too. It seems like the plays were getting in awfully slowly to the quarterback. They had to call time a couple of times.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that every time they went into an empty backfield, the quarterback got sacked. And it seems like after at least the first or second time, they had to learn that they don't want an empty backfield. So I'll just listen to what you have to say about that.
Yeah, definitely, Norm. Thank you so much for the call. We really appreciate it. Luke, I want to swing it to you on those times because there were so many times that play clock was running down. Was it miscommunication on the sideline or the crowd noise?
No, it was something we talked about earlier, AJ. It was just the fact that it got really loud here when Syracuse had third down on offense. I mean, that played a huge factor in this game, especially in the first half. I think, honestly, I mean this sincerely, I think the crowd got tired about how long this game was. They kind of picked it up toward the end when they realized Tennessee was going to come away with the win. But in the first quarter especially, when Syracuse had third down, it was deafening in here. Probably louder than I've heard the Dome in quite some time. Maybe even akin to that Miami game. And this place today had more people than the Dome holds at full capacity, and it was very loud. I think Steve Angeli was having trouble hearing. Multiple times he had his hands over his helmet. He was trying to, relay the signs. That definitely caused the delay of game in the first quarter. It's just the figuring out process. But, it did not help that you were playing in front of the most passionate Tennessee fans who made the 3.5-hour journey down here. Those are the people who are going to be extra loud, and they were. So I would chalk it up almost entirely to that.
I think that it is partially that, but it's also I really kind of going back to Norm's point. Again, Norm, thank you for the call. If you want to join Norm, you can call us at 315-443-2011. He was talking about the empty sets.
Yeah.
Do you think that they were doing a little bit too much with Angeli? He was kind of a late transfer. I don't think so. I really don't. I think he was in a pro-style offense,
exactly
pro-ish
my point,
at
Jish.
Notre Dame.
Right.
I think bar for bar, this was a pretty well-coached game from Fran Brown. There's just certain things you cannot overcome. You can't overcome a talent deficit that Syracuse obviously had today. I think Fran Brown did a great job in that second quarter, giving Angeli more quick hitters, relying on the run game that was working a little bit more. Defensively, you kind of just throw caution to the wind at that point because there was nothing you really could do. But offensively, despite the miscommunications, which I think we all can agree we're chalking up to it being just a really, really, really hostile environment.
Yes.
This
And
was a well-coached
again,
game.
my 3 big words: bigger, faster, stronger.
Yeah, AJ,
Tennessee.
that is exactly what it is. And I said this actually. I was hanging out in the booth today rather than in the press box. I was helping a spot for our broadcasters because we're pretty high up here. And I was saying to them as soon as we went to the first break, Syracuse is getting manhandled on both sides
Especially
of the
up
ball at the
front.
line of scrimmage, literally every single play. It almost felt like, and I mean this, I said this in the first quarter, probably 6 minutes into the game. It felt like Tennessee was taking the snap further back from the line of scrimmage than Syracuse was, because there was space almost instantaneously every single time. And that's just because this offensive line probably has 3 future NFL players on it. I mean, that is, that's the reality of the situation when you're dealing with an SEC squad. And, honestly, when you look back at this game, I understand that in the moment it's hard not to be disappointed if you're a Syracuse fan. You wanted this game to be close.
It's only week 1,
I think
though.
it's hard to get out of your mind, beating a top 10 team in Miami in the Dome, the excitement that brought to this program going into the offseason. And you honestly linger on that for a long time because it's the last – I mean, let's be real. The Holiday Bowl did not really count. They're playing with shells of a roster.
But
And
so much new this year for Syracuse.
8 returning starters total.
And
And not even all those guys actually started
Exactly,
today. So,
yes.
I mean, Derek McDonald did not start in this game.
And he probably shouldn't have, by the way. 2 touchdowns were on his head.
Yes.
He got ran over for the
Wait,
first
but
score of the
just
game.
Let me finish what I was saying here real quick. Sorry,
My
no,
fault, Luke.
No, you're all good. I just want to finish up this point before I get sidetracked because there's a lot to talk about, and unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time.
Too many
Because the
injuries.
length of this-
Hopefully everyone's okay,
Yes.
too.
Yeah,
That was crazy.
no,
We're at
maybe-
12 seconds. We just broke the huddle on this double overtime.
The injury report is going to that's going to be an ugly sight for both teams come next week. Tennessee actually got more banged up
That's
than
what I
Syracuse
thought,
did.
yeah.
I'm interested to see how their roster looks after this game.
Yeah.
But point aside, Syracuse, they adjusted. And I agree with your point. I think it was a very well-coached game from Fran Brown. He really did a good job of keeping his players contained and in the moment. He talked a lot about that this week with some media availability, saying, we're just trying to live the moment. We're not trying to focus on anything past this. And credit to him, when Syracuse went down in this game 17-0, like this could have become an absolutely unwatchable game.
If they didn't fix the penalties,
it
could have been a problem.
This easily could have been 30-0 in the second quarter.
Definitely, yeah. And it credits at Tennessee, they racked up penalties.
And they had 30 points.
Yeah.
Tennessee had 30 points in the
at
second quarter
halftime.
early on. And the reality is Syracuse matched them pretty much blow for blow after that. And honestly, I really did not think Tennessee executed that well after the first quarter. It just came down to the fact that Tennessee was more ready to play this game, and when both teams are at 100% and full energy, coming off a full offseason of rest, Tennessee simply has more size and strength, and they're going to beat you. You can't outcoach that. There's nothing you can do about it. And I honestly think when you look back at the end of the season, this Syracuse team is going to be a pretty solid team that picks up a lot of good wins, and I think they will beat one of those college football playoff teams on the road. I think if you eliminate some of the simple mistakes, and they were simple from the first quarter, this game could easily be in overtime, maybe a Syracuse win.
Coming up on 10 minutes left here on the double overtime, we're joined by Luke Burgess, who is in Atlanta. He's been in Atlanta since yesterday, so if you want any questions for him, be sure to call in 315-443-2011. You can also text us 315-556-3929. Just Sokolsky join with me here in our Ostrom Avenue studios. Luke, we've talked about a lot of what went wrong on the defensive side of the ball. And I think that partially that is, again, due to the bigger, faster, stronger aspect of it. But I think we also just touched on it. There's a lot of nuance, especially on the defensive side of the ball. That is, I think, where I'll be maybe losing the most sleep tonight. Kind of worried that Syracuse, they could get caught in a lot of shootouts this season, and that just may not work well for them.
Yeah, it's funny because I remember the conversation going into this game, and honestly, it kind of died down over the last month as we actually really started talking about what this game was going to be like.
Yeah.
But over the offseason, I remember people saying, well, Syracuse, I think defensively it might be fine. Tennessee's offense isn't that good, but offensively they're just going to get shut down by this SEC defense. And you look back and they almost put up, 4 touchdowns worth of scores on an SEC defense, but it was the defense that got manhandled by an offense that really did not execute very well. So, I don't know. You look at this game, and I think it's hard to take much away from it, to be quite honest with you. And yes, it's week 1, AJ. You said it a little bit earlier on in the show, but also the team that finished this game did not play the same as the team that started the game. They played better as the game went on. They adjusted.
And that's credit to Fran Brown.
This is right. It's a credit to the entire coaching staff. This was a big stage with a lot of guys who don't have experience. And when you don't have experience and you don't have that, that veteran leadership to rely on, like you did last year with a Kyle McCord, a bunch of guys on the defense like Marlo Wax or Justin Barron who can just settle things down. They're not intimidated playing in stages like
Who's
this.
going to be the defensive
leader? That's why
leader?
they're playing in the NFL.
Yeah, exactly.
But today, if you don't come out ready to play against a team like this, you're going to lose the game.
Yeah.
But I easily think, based off of prior precedent, what we've seen from Fran Brown, this probably won't happen again. I don't think the team will come out this unprepared again.
You would hope not. And I mean, you're not really playing a lot of teams that have the same kind of rushing acumen. Maybe you got Clemson coming up. You got Notre Dame. They're going to they're going to look at this game and say, all right, this is how we beat Syracuse. And I think a lot of it, was Tennessee looking at how Boston College beat Syracuse last year, or how Ohio got off to a really good start against Syracuse. And then you look at guys like Chris Thomas going down, Devin Grant, hopefully he's all right. He was making plays today. I was very impressed with Devin Grant. I think he's going to be the veteran leader that does step up for this Syracuse team, and we're going to have a lot more positive things to say about Devin Grant if he's healthy. I mean, you said it, Luke. I really am more hoping, this is what I'm going to lose sleep about, is how healthy this team is moving forward. UConn could definitely be a trap game next week if this team is too banged up from a very, very tough Tennessee opponent.
Yeah,
Luke, we're gonna
something to consider.
Yeah, Luke, we know you've had a long day here, so we're gonna let you go. Any final thoughts before we let you get back to the hotel and enjoy your night in Atlanta?
Yeah, I think I would just reiterate what I said a moment ago. I just don't think you can take too much from this game. At the end of the day, it's a lot of guys trying to settle into a new system. And when you look at the fact that Tennessee only outscored SU by a combined 2 points in quarters 2 through 4, I think that shows you that this is going to be a pretty solid Syracuse team that's going to be in the top half of the ACC this year.
Awesome, Luke. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Coming up here, almost 5 o'clock, top of the hour. That's when the double overtime will conclude. We're wrapping up shop, talking about Syracuse's opening week defeat to Tennessee, 45-26. If you want to get your thoughts in, you don't have too much time left, but phone line's always still open, so give us a call, 315-443-2011, or you can text us, 315-556-3929. It's the end of the show, and if you remember last year, we brought in final words, so that's what we're going to head to now, final word time. I'm going to head it over to you, Jish. What are your final words on this? You want to say it's a blowout. Sure, it's a blowout, but I think it was still a decent second half from Syracuse.
I think if we're talking about final words, we have to look at first words of the season, too. These are the first final words of the season, and I think they kind of have to mirror what the first words of the season were. I think that any first sentence you had about Syracuse football going into 2025 ended in a question mark. I think that no matter what side of the aisle you were on, how's Angeli going to do? How's the defense going to look now that all these people are gone? And after the game today, I think a lot of the first statements you're saying about Syracuse football will still end in question marks. Luke was very nice to this team, saying they're going to be a top half of the ACC team. I just can't say that with certainty after watching this game. Sure, you had a good second half, and you kept it, I guess, a little bit competitive within striking distance against an SEC team, but you still lost by 19. And there were a lot of factors, I think, that were out of the Orange's control, so that just leads me to believe that my questions going into the season, how's Angeli going to look? How's Demetrius Samuel going to look? How are X, Y, and Z? How is the offense going to click without Kyle McCord? Those still haven't really been answered. It's almost like a science experiment, right? You kind of have to control for the variables, and this is a game where you just can't do that. It was supposed to be a neutral site game, one in which, they're on paper at least, there's an equal amount of fans on the quote-unquote home and away side. There weren't. They went into a very hostile environment and kind of got exactly what you thought would happen. There was no real control that you can actually evaluate this team on, so it's hard to really give you a final take on this team. I think there are still so many questions, and I think it all starts with the defense. That's the big question for me. Some questions as to how Steve Angeli can set the tone. They will all have to probably be answered next week because we really didn't get any answers from Syracuse on offense, defense, or special teams. We didn't even get
Yasin
to see
Willis. We have an answer there.
We have an answer there, sure, but we didn't see an answer even on special teams. Trip Woody didn't come on to kick a single field goal.
That was weird.
That's one of my final thoughts. Where were you, Trip Woody?
That was weird.
That was very weird. We only saw him kick 2 extra points, was only asked to kick 2 extra points. So I still have a ton of questions about this team, but it's still early, AJ. I know that there isn't necessarily time to panic. There isn't necessarily time to go all in on the orange, but I'm just very, very skeptical.
Calm. Everybody calm down.
Oh, come on.
I think, yes, this was not a pretty game from Syracuse, especially in that first quarter. But as Luke mentioned, Syracuse grew into it really nicely. I liked what I saw from them in the second half. I know they started the third quarter miserably with the interception. That was not ideal at all. Calm down. Next week's UConn, which played Syracuse. I was at that game last year when the Orange and Huskies played. It was actually a closer game than I think people thought and what you would look at when you look at the box score. But then after that, you got Colgate, who you should put 60 on. No disrespect to Colgate. Yeah. But just calm down. I think it's just Tennessee. This is a long season ahead. Difficult schedule. Let these new guys grow into the system. Give Demetrius Samuel Jr. a break. He's 17 years old. He's going to get better. He's not going to be going up against Tennessee every weekend. With that said, he's going to have to go up against Clemson, Notre Dame, Miami. Those are not easy teams, but give him time. Give Steve Angeli time. I'm looking at what Fran Brown said post-game. I don't think quarterback switches on his mind at all. I really don't think we're going to get to that conversation, unless something goes really bad. I really do think they have the confidence in Angeli. Just calm down, everyone. It's okay. It's just week 1. We don't need to panic yet. Syracuse, at times today, I know the score doesn't show it, I liked the way they played.
I know they did come back a little bit. They looked better, but you can't erase a first quarter where you absolutely
and
got
hopefully you learn
completely
from.
manhandled.
Hopefully we don't have to talk about penalties again.
If
this year.
Syracuse can't come out and start the game and set the tone in week 1 of the season,
that's the goal for
when
UConn.
are you going to ever be more motivated to come out and set the tone?
I would spin it. They were too ready. They were almost too amped up.
Ready
to where they made mistakes. They made sloppy mistakes
Then they weren't
because
ready,
they were
AJ.
so ready.
No, that means they weren't ready if they're making those mistakes. They were not ready for this moment, and there's going to be big moments throughout the season. I don't know how you're telling me to calm down and relax. I'm fired up, AJ.
Oh, man, Jish, this is not what I wanted to have happen. I said
you flipped it on its head.
And now you're freaking out on me here. This is not what I wanted to have happen. I just think it's just week 1. Let's be real. My 3 words of the day: bigger, faster, stronger. That's what Tennessee was.
And that's what Clemson will be. And that's what Notre Dame will be. And that's what maybe SMU will be. I mean, they were a college football playoff team last year.
Yeah, just give it time. Just give it time. Just week 1. There was so much nuance.
Only 12
for
weeks.
This team. Yes, I know there's only 12 weeks, but just give it some time. Things are gonna get figured out. I'm not too worried yet at all. And you don't have to be worried here on WAER because we got coverage of the Syracuse football season all year long. We're back next week. UConn. That is Saturday at noon. And the double overtime will go until 5 p.m. Got to thank our producer, Andrew Della Piana, our engineer, Dan Papillo, Luke Burgess, also down in Atlanta. He did an awesome job covering this game. He had a very long day. With what was
and a
one of
short
those-
block.
Yeah, if you missed football, I mean, holy smokes, you got a lot of football.
Make it up for lost
today.
time.
Yeah, literally. And then big thanks to our WAR Sports Talk desk as well, Christian, Josh, and Ella, holding down the ship there as well. Just before we sign off, do you have any lingering thoughts that you want to get out before we head off the air?
I want to say that Demetrius Samuel Jr. got a lot of slack on this double overtime, and I'm not here for it. That's all I got to say.
Interesting. Well, he'll have a chance to redeem himself against UConn. For AJ Myers, Jish Sokolsky, that's all the time we have. Thanks so much for listening, everybody.